the wine industry asks for excellent yet simple, rapid, cost-effective techniques for smart viticulture. Its future depends on bringing the process control into the hands of the winemaker, allowing producers to become more competitive in an increasingly concentrated modern distribution. i-Grape embodies the smart agriculture movement, pioneering fully automated monitoring at a large scale. To discuss these trends and developments in precision viticulture, please welcome the next panel moderator, Roberto Beghi, Associate Professor at Università degli Studi di Milano.
Welcome back, and good afternoon, and good morning to our speakers that are at the other part of the world, because we have for this session two presentations. One from the first presentation from Stanley Best, and it's a pleasure to meet him again. Hi, Stanley. Stanley gave a speech regarding the advances in agriculture 4.0 and agricultural robotics. He is from INEA in Xi'an, in Chile. Stanley, the floor is yours. You have 20 minutes. Please.
Thank you, Roberto. I'm happy to be here. Happy to see you again. Many years, 2 years, I lived out here without see you. Roberto asked me to speak about the integration Chilean viticulture sector into the new millennium. I'm Stanley Bess. I'm the director of the Digital Agriculture program in my institution, this Agriculture Research Institute of Chile. My email and my phone number is in there, in the screen. And I want to share what is our situation here in Chile related with the viticulture and related with the agriculture in general, and focus in viticulture, what we are doing here in Chile. First is to show a little bit about our conditions. We have the biggest drought in our history. We have the last 15 years with a drought situation, a really strong drought, with a lack of water in many areas of my country. What we see is this is going to continue in the coming years, and all the movement of the environment that we have in Chile start to moving into the south of my country, and the area of viticulture that is close to the middle of center, as you see here, in the center of Chile, they start to have a really strong problem with irrigation. And it's with the weather changes, we have the same problem with the changes in the management of the viticulture, because 1 year is totally different to the next year, and we have problem with the phenologies and changing the patterns of the plagues, and many other things that is changing with the weather. In addition, we have a problem with labor. Labor start to be increasing in prices a lot, and it start to be a big problem, the cost of labor. As all the world, we have problem with the cost of the fertilizer, the pesticide in Chile increase between 300% to 500%. The cost of all the pesticide and other things related with the running of the production. The travels of our production from Chile to the rest of the countries around the world, not just increasing price, increasing time. For fruit is more of a problem, because we have from 3-4 weeks to arrive to US. Right now, around 6 weeks to arrive to US. And all of those problems arrive to the benefits from the farmers, for the viticulture, for the agriculture. And with that, start to be a movement related to start to using data for running the agriculture. That as I say in there, the things won't change until we do. And we do make some changes. Our problems start at the beginning of the production related with we have a big difference in soils texture related with our um, formation of the soils. That we have a lot of rivers, we are between mountains, and we have a big differences in soil that we need to start in there for the even for the plantation. And in there we start to all the new viticulture areas made a soil maps to develop the irrigation system. We introduced that like 10 years ago, but in the last 5 years, all of the viticultures they are start to planting or some correction in the already done, start to doing this related soil with the irrigation. That is not just irrigation; it's the fertigation. Most of the areas are the fertilities running through the irrigation system. Weather, as I say, we have a problem that is with the weather to follow up the phenology of the plant related with the weather in order to do the management. After we have all the in the growth vegetative growth, sorry, we have to management the nutrient and the water relationship to run in the exactly what we need to do apply in that condition. The growth of the grapes to know the grapes and finally with the fruit quality characteristic to have the harvest in the right moment and in the differential harvest when we have a big difference for develop our wines in which we are focused the last part of my presentation. What we see is we have the flowchart that we have is in 3 steps. First steps is information capture, is diagnostic and monitoring, in which we have the segmentation of what is going on on the different fields. We have fields small, but we have big fields like 1,000, 1,500 hectares in one area, in which it's quite difficult to follow up what is going on in the fields. With that, we start to working a lot with the satellite information to have the segmentation, but we understand that the satellite information is not enough. We need to connect the spatial information with the ground truth. And with that, we're running the second step is the ground truth related with the continuous field variable monitoring as a soil moisture. We have some companies in the bottom in which we have a line of connection. And the second step is the discontinuous field variable monitoring system. Like we have a sensoring that is not all the days. It's like a drone or like a sensor for quality or different kind of sensor that you don't have for continuous monitoring, in which we have in there another company, and all combined into the analytics and a platform systems. That gave us a logistic for decide the irrigation, for decide the pesticide application, for decide the fertility application. That's going into the last section that is corrective action, that is the actuators. And in there we have a machinery, smart machinery, and robotics in the irrigation system running with the automatization in that area, like the company that have here, the dog control that running the irrigation system with the automatic system, with all the line connected. We have the spatial variability, use the M38, mainly in Chile. And with that, we segregate the differences in soil. As you can see there, we have big differences in which we get the soil condition and we develop the maps of variability of soil. And with that, we segregate the areas for running the irrigation system or understood what is going on for accounting the pruning and the labors in the management selected with the different areas. Here is a line of the different companies. Here there are 3 lines in the water monitoring with the soil moisture and integrated with the platforms, special platforms like a satellite or mainly satellites. 3 lines that there are some of the we are running in Chile, in which we work with the farmers directly, and even we have a system for the tele-accessory in which we connect like we are doing right now, but on fields in which this system is using a really low amount of internet, and we can see what is going on field. And this is mainly directly focused in the working with the consulting people, using the information and watching what is going on the field in order to help the viticultures running their fields. With the information of soil, as when we can run in this model that we're running with the soil variabilities, the physical variabilities, the maps, the satellite maps with as NDVI or other index. Mainly we use the NDVI. We use the evapotranspiration maps. We're using metrics, it's a model to see the evapotranspiration. And with that, we can represent the spatial condition from the 1 point, extrapolate the condition of the soil moisture that we have in 1 point to the rest of the area. And with that, we can see what is going on in the whole field in order to have a decision for the specific block related with what is going on in the whole field. And with that, we have in there, for example, in the graph in the left, the condition that we have, the red means areas that they are in water stress, and in the green, when the area is okay, is under condition. And we can extrapolate how much percentage of the area is in water stress related with 1 point and all the other information. And with that, we decide when irrigate. Other conditions that we are using is a drone. We develop with a company this drone. This is a totally autonomous. This drone landing in the box, going down. There are a machine that change the battery, put another batteries, and all the information go into the box, get the analytics, and the drone go up and just stay 5 minutes, stop it in the landing gear, and stay in flight 90%, 95% of the time. With that, we start to using for irrigation monitoring with the thermal images that we can see the water stress, and watching different problems that we can see with the information. And the last one is surveillance that we use not for specific in grapes. It's not that big problem in there, but in another crops it's more problematic. This is the flowchart that we are using, and this is the kind of map that we developed with the thermal images associated with the water stress. Other thing that we're using is with a camera. It's an optional project that we have. We use a camera with a sensor, with a distance sensor and optic sensor. And with that, what we see is the growth of the fruit, how the fruit is growing. With that, we see for example, if the growth start to get in a stop, we have a rates that they need to have in a phenologic period, but it start to going down. That grade of the growing means there are some problem. And if we see the irrigation with other system is not, means we maybe will have a problem with the fertility problem or something like this. Another things related with the fertility, we developed the definition of the management zone with the information of satellite for the last 3, 4, 5 years to develop a specific zones of management. And with that, we developed the fertility soil and plant sampling in order to have a really good sampling. One of the problems that we have sometimes is when we get the sampling randomly, we doesn't see the specific problem in the specific area, and sometimes we get more sampling, for example, in the red and the orange areas, and without any sampling in the green ones. And that gave us information related with the fertility that they are on in that field, not correct or far away from what we should have. And with this, we focus better the sampling and what is going on in the field. With that, we focus if we have some problem. This is an example in which as we have the irrigation system, there are some areas like the boxes that we have in there that we cannot apply what actually that area need. And what we did in that example is an area and that apply exactly what the field do, and other area that we apply for fertigation with the machine, the extra fertility that the plant need, and we increase almost 100% the yields with a really low amount. That is mean we can focus the application in an areas that they need a little more and increase the yields, especially now that the business is related more with yields in a quality more or less homogeneous than the high quality with low yields. Other things is we have a variable rate pesticide application in which we develop a model in which we, with a drone right now, we start to working with a satellite, but with a drone, we develop exactly biomass that we have, and we segregate by biomass and the machines that can apply variable rate application pesticide, like this machine that we have in the left side. And this system developed the prescription maps and send it automatically into the machine that is connected with the internet, and have an application with the specific necessities of the biomass. And with that, we reduce around the 30%, a little more, of the pesticide application. And with the cost that the pesticide has right now, is quite a big reduction in cost. Other thing is using biopesticide. As you know, all around the world, it starts to be interest for using the biopesticide systems. And what we do is develop with the same kind of conditions, the areas of the necessities of this biopesticide system. We pick them from fields sampling, and after we decide if the amount of the biopesticide needed for areas that the biopesticide are in this box, and we develop this drone that drop this ball that is inside the biopesticide into the plants in the canopy, and that biopesticide go out and make their job. I'm not a specialist in the biopesticide on the insect, but we develop the structure for spread the biopesticide more efficiently. And this is another thing that we are watching to running around. Another thing is my institution has the biggest weather stations, automatic weather station network in Chile. We have more than 300 around Chile, and we have all the monitoring of weather, the main monitoring weather in Chile, and we develop different statistics and data for the weather station, and we start to develop models. This is for potatoes. It's another example for a fungus problem in potatoes, in which we are connecting with the farmers and tell them if they are a problem with a specific fungus. This is Tison de la papa, of potatoes Tison, and we tell them when they need to apply. But in the same condition, we start to working with the IBM, and even when we have a big amount of weather station, it's not that big. 300 for 4,000 kilometers of Chile is not big. And we start to connect the special information of weather that IBM has around the world, and we connected with in order to reduce the sizes of the information to 500 meter pixel size, in which in there we adjust the temperature, and with this we start to running the follow up the phenology of the plant, in which a farmer can make a block and see the phenology that their fields is in the moment, with a small pixel size. Even more than that, we start to running with a 10 meter pixel size. Here we have adopted 2 blocks in which we can see, you can see the big difference that we have in the 2 seasons. It's almost 20% more. And we see the differences that we have in the phenology and in the temperature accumulation in the different areas that is related with the phenology. And that is quite clear when you go to the field. Some areas of the field are in flowering and the rest is not. That means that area of flowering is receiving more energy and is receiving more temperature and increasing the temperature and follow up more the phenology. And that helps us to see what is going on around the fields in the phenology condition that help us to the management. Related with that, this is a project that we started some time ago with Roberto to measure the grape qualities with the spectrometer. And we get in advances with this small spectrometer that is something like system like this size, a little small like this size, in which we touch the fruit and gave us all these characteristics. We were running with for 2 companies, a winery company, a blueberry company, and we get from that sensor the anthocyanin, polyphenol, acidity, firmness, sugar content, organic matter, and calcium. And with that, we help us to go to field, not just in packing house for fruit, in the field for grapes, to develop a quality maps and make some segregation. And the good stuff has helped us to follow up as it's not destructive, follow up the ripening of the fruit and harvest in the right moment. Not just the spatial variability to harvest differently, but the right moment to do it. That is really important. Maybe not that important for grapes. It's important, but not as important as in fruits. That is really important for labor. After you manage the labor for the different harvests, and it's important for that. And the other thing that we were running is yield estimation with optics. We follow up we're taking photograph. We can accounting the amount of grapes that they are in there and have a adjustment for the amount of yield. This is something is going around the world. Many people do it. We found that it's okay, but mainly for grapes that they are in high quality, in which you can see all the grapes. If it's not, you need to take out the leaves and make more difficult to see the problem. And in this moment, we are start to run this with the weather information and other information that running a neural network for running a model for yield estimation, and we are working on. We see that is possibly the best way to run it. And finally, as I have 20 minutes and I 2 minutes late, all the information that we can running around with the different things that we see, we try to combine a model in which companies can, with the API connecting and one specific model, because viticulture or farmer doesn't want to have 20 different software to see the different things. And with that, to try to combine is the behavior that right now is going on in Chile. There are companies trying to do that, like a widget. Each system put it in a platform like a widget, and to see one specific thing. That is the behavior, but it's not yet developed. But we are going in that direction to have all the other things that we see. Yield monitoring, yield estimation, traceability, blockchain, benchmarking, prescription variables, and so on for the producers working well. And that's it that I want to show you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Stanley, for the presentation. We have used a few minutes, but if we have some question from the room or from remote. Yes.
Thank you, Stanley. Very interesting presentation, and thank you for sharing all the developments you are having in Chile. My question has got to do with the final slide, the platform where you integrate all the information. What methods and protocols are you using to make the data interoperable? That is making sure that the different systems where you use the data coming from can talk to each other and combine everything in a usable platform to support decision making.
Okay, thank you for the question. It is quite complicated because companies have their specific protocols, and they are mainly telecom companies start to working in that, like Telefonica, like Intel, that they start to develop a platform that can connect the API of the companies and bring it into the specific platform visualization. I don't know much more about which kind of protocol they are using. Just I know that each company here in Chile, all the information that they have in the database, they create an API in order to they have their own platform to see the information, but from the API, the companies start to bring in the information and open to the farmers to see the specific information that they want to see in the screen, share the different things. That they started, I think they're working in that the last 2 years. It's nothing developed yet. They are we start to talking with the different companies to try to create a protocol like in machinery you have ISOBUS, but it's not yet developed. They are trying to develop a specific protocol for the information that is they are in that way, but it's not developed yet. But we see that the necessity for the companies is quite important to have just one thing, and mainly for the consulting people, because many of the farmers or companies, they are quite busy all the day, and what we see that the consulting are the people to moving up all this technology into the farmer with the better behavior. It's like in the medicine, the doctor is who is running ahead with the information for the user, that us, that we just need the results. Is what I can tell you about that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Stanley. We need to move to the next speaker. And I want to thank you again to be here with us today. And I hope to see you soon.
Yeah.
So we can move to the other, speaker. That is Justine van den Heuvel. Sorry for the pronunciation, from the Cornell University, USA. She gave us a talk regarding a new satellite NDVI-based sampling protocol for grape maturation monitoring. Justine, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the invitation to be here today to talk about this sampling protocol that we've been working on. So this work was in collaboration with a postdoc who was in my program, Dr. Jim Myers, who now works for Cornell Cooperative Extension, and in collaboration with Dr. Nick DeKuzlian and his team at E&J Gallo out in Modesto, California. So the objective of this work was to improve sampling efficiency compared to stratified or random sampling. And the idea is that we ask growers to take a large random sample of their blocks, right? And it's whether they're sampling for nutrients or whether they're sampling for fruit maturation. We tell growers take a large random sample. But that's really tough when we're talking about vineyard blocks up to sometimes about 65 hectares for a single block. And so what our goal was is to reduce the total number of sampling locations within a block and to reduce the traveling distance among those, between those locations or among those locations, to reduce the amount of fuel, for example, that's used for the ATV to get around, and to reduce the required sample size as well. The idea being that that will reduce the amount of reagents that are required to run this in the lab. So we actually started probably more than a decade ago with a manually collected data set. So using the Richard Smart PQA method for measuring canopies, and we've worked with that and now call it an enhanced PQA method. And with that data set, we proved that we really don't need these large random samples, right? That if we can measure variability some way in the vineyard block, then we can use that variability to guide where we're sampling. But of course, no one wants to collect a manual data set anymore to do this. And so then we started working with NDVI to reveal the variability. So this initial work that I'm going to talk about was with Washington State vineyards, 6 1-hectare blocks of Riesling. And our goal here is essentially to make our population distribution for our sample the same as that for our entire population. So if our x-axis, is pixel value, and our y-axis is pixel count or frequency, we want these distributions essentially to look the same in terms of shape. Not necessarily in terms of the y-axis, but we definitely want the same shape in these. So here's an example from this Washington State work that we did. So these are 3 different 1-hectare Riesling blocks, A1 through A3. And this is the sample distribution, the total population distribution for each of those entire blocks. And then we worked with an heuristic algorithm, which essentially looks at the entire problem space to find solutions. And so we call that a globally optimized solution. And so we say, if we can sample anywhere in the vineyard block, where do we sample? And it gives us the minimum amount of sampling spaces and locations to get these pixel distributions to statistically match one another. So the problem with the globally optimized sample for the block is that it's still sampling a lot of different locations. But then we constrained that algorithm so that it sampled only in a single row. So I picked a single row to sample so that we could, again, get a similar distribution. And so I'll show you what this looks like. So here we've got these exact same blocks, A1 through A3. And this is NDVI, and we've just converted it into grayscale here. And here is our globally optimized sample. And hopefully you can see this on the screen. So in these black boxes, there are a series of white dots that, that hopefully are visible. There's a few down around there. And then throughout here, these are the sampling locations where we can sample to get our 2 distributions to match. And then again, we can force that to a single row. And so hopefully you can see here the white dots, the idea being that the grower can sample both sides of the row that they are driving up to collect this sample that is more accurate. So then we looked at the efficiency gain. So on our x-axis here is our optimized sample size, which runs from anywhere of 1% of the total population down to about 0.2% of the total population. And the y-axis here is the percent difference in sample size versus random sampling. And so for many of these blocks, we had a decrease in sample size, starting at about 20% and going down to about 67% with the globally optimized sample. And the data was pretty similar for the single row optimization as well, is we could decrease sample size from anywhere about 20% down to about 67%. And so the idea here is that sample size, again, is considerably smaller, saving on reagents. And the sampling distance can be reduced in these blocks by up to about 90%, because the grower would only need to drive up the single row and collect samples on either side. So this experiment was totally on paper, though. This was just my postdoc and I working with the data and calculating these different possibilities. So what we really wanted to do was try this in real vineyard blocks and see whether we could actually get this to work. So we teamed up with Dr. Nick DeCuslian and his team at Gallo. They have vineyards in the Central Valley of California. And these vineyard blocks range in hectares from about 3 hectares up to about 65 hectares. So some of these are absolutely huge and being managed as a single unit. And we worked with 13 blocks in the first year and 16 blocks in the second year. We used Landsat NDVI as a measure of our variability. Landsat, the pixels are 30 meters by 30 meters. And the reason we used it is it's free of charge and readily available. So our goal here was to develop a system that growers can use really easily, that they don't have to pay a lot of money to access, as that reduces the opportunities for its adoption. And when we used NDVI at full canopy, it's actually from the previous growing season. And we did test whether those solutions that we found were temporarily stable. And I haven't brought that data today, but the answer is yes. On the whole, those solutions were temporarily stable in these vineyards. I don't know if that would be the case for cool climate vineyards where we have a lot more variability though. And then we compared 3 sampling methods. And we changed them a little bit from our previous experiment, just because it was the sampling that Gallo was already doing was stratified sampling. And we wanted to do a comparison to that. So here are the 3 sampling methods that we worked with. Random sampling, so this is our control, our gold standard, right? And what we did, this was all in MATLAB, is we had MATLAB randomly select 20 sampling locations within any vineyard block that we were sampling. So 1 pixel per sampling location, we sampled a total of 20 pixels, and all of our cluster sizes, our cluster samples were the same size, and the goal was to have them small. So in this case, we only picked 1 cluster at each sampling location, randomly chose one of that within that pixel, for a total of 20 clusters. And all of our methods had 20 clusters sampled. The stratified sampling was based on what Gallo was doing, which was 4 vineyard rows, 1 in each quadrant. So they separated the block into 4, regardless of the size. And they sampled near the end of the row to save on travel time. So the number of sampling locations was 4. And they sampled 2 pixels per location, a total of 8 pixels sampled, and 20 clusters. And then the last method we called NDVI3, and this is our method. And what we did was we programmed an algorithm to choose 3 adjacent pixels representing the 3 quantiles of the population. So essentially, when we think about the population distribution, the middle pixel represents the mean NDVI value. And then the pixel on either side represents the tail. So basically, it was only 1 sampling location in each block, so only 1 spot to go to, but it covered 3 pixels. So that's basically a 90 meter stretch. And again, a total of 20 clusters were sampled. So this is what it looks like. So here are 3 different vineyard blocks, and they're outlined in the dashed green lines here. So this is managed as a single unit, this one over here, and then along the bottom. And hopefully you can see I've put blue dots where MATLAB told us to collect our random samples. So 20 different locations, 1 pixel sampled at each location. We then compared the stratified sampling. So these are the green bars. So for example, in this unit that is that's managed together, we sampled up here, over there, and then down. And again, the idea is accessing the block from each corner so that the driving or walking is significantly reduced. And then our NDVI3 solutions here are in red. So again, that middle pixel represents the mean of our population distribution, and then the pixel on either side represents the tail. So what did our data look like? Well, there's a couple of different ways that we can compare this. So what we started with was something called the KS test. And I'm sorry, it has a much longer Russian sounding name that I won't try to pronounce. But the KS test is essentially a comparison of population distributions, right? So it says, does the total population distribution match that of the sample population distribution? And so this is in the first year of our study, the 13 blocks that we worked in. Here's the total number of pixels per block. So remember, pixels are 30 meters by 30 meters in this case. So this is our largest block at about 65 hectares or so. Here are the KS values of our random sample. And so essentially, if the p-value, so these are p-values, if it's below 0.05, it has failed the KS test, and it means those two population distributions are not statistically similar to one another. So you can see with random sampling, the KS test looks pretty good, right? The lowest p-value is 0.18. That is still a pass, so it means those population distributions are the same. And the highest is 0.99. But the problem with that random sample is that we had to drive to 20 different locations, right? So it took a lot longer to do that. We had to use more gas, etc. The stratified sampling was, again, that four-corner approach that Gallo was using. And you can see of the 13 blocks, 3 times that sampling plan failed the KS test. So the p-value was less than 0.05, meaning that they were sampling from locations that did not represent the variability within that total block. NDVI3 is our solution, again, where we sample 3 pixels in a row, just a single location in the block. And as you can see, those p-values for the KS test are very high. There's only one exception, block 12, where it's at 0.5. Everything else is 0.9 or above. So that tells us that our NDVI3 was a really good match for the population distribution, meaning that the variability in that small 3-pixel section really matches the variability that's within the entire block. So we wanted to do a backup here as well and make sure that, that we weren't just leading ourselves down a path with statistics. So we did all the food analysis and then just did some Pearson correlation coefficients to check whether they were correlated. So along our rows here, we have our random, this is random pre-harvest. 2017, we sampled randomly at Brazen and at pre-harvest as well. And compared to NDVI3 and our stratified sampling. We looked at Brix, titratable acidity, pH, and anthocyanins. And as you can see, we actually have really good correlations for fruit composition. Stratified, when we look at it this way, actually looks really good in most situations as well, except for with Brix in our pre-harvest sample in 2017. So we did this work over a couple of years, a total of 29 blocks, I think it was in total, and found that these solutions work. NDVI3, I don't think it ever failed the KS test, and it saved on a lot of resources in terms of collecting these samples. So in conclusion, our method reduced the number of sampling locations in a block from 20, which was our choice for the random sample. Some people would do more, some maybe less, or 4 locations for the stratified sample down to 1 single location. And as a result, NDVI3 would therefore significantly reduce the labor needs in terms of the staff out there collecting, the collection time, and the transportation costs for collecting the sample as well. As a result, Gallo has built this into an app, and this is what they use for all the blocks that they own out in the Central Valley of California. We've had some interest from some other large wine companies here in the States as well, because everybody is looking to, reduce the labor needs and reduce their carbon footprint as well. So if anyone is interested in trying this, we do have the MATLAB code that is available. Unfortunately, I'll tell you, Cornell doesn't give it away for free anymore, but it's not very expensive to try it. And yeah, we'd be glad to see this method used elsewhere. And with that, I would be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Justy, also for the timing. We have time for a question from the audience. And from remote, I see we have no question. A curiosity from me. Have you tried also to, you show the correlation coefficient. Have you tried also to make some modeling to test in a quantitative way to have a prediction of the parameters, something like that?
We have, yeah, and I didn't include that data, trying to stay at my 20 minutes here, is that we did do some modeling with this and essentially had really good luck from our raisin sampling, predicting what the final numbers for Brix, pH, titratable acidity, and anthocyanin would be at harvest.
Okay. Okay. So we can, I think we can conclude. So we are just a bit in late for the timing. So I want to thank you again, Justine, for this nice presentation. And we have now the coffee break, and we have to be here at 3:30. But so we have more or less 20 minutes for the break. And thank you for being here for this final session. Then we have the round table that would be very interesting. Thank you. Okay. It was inspiring. There's a hole in the ground where an old man of Aaron goes around and around, and his mind is a beacon in the veil of the night. For a strange confession, there's a wrong and a right, but he never fight. No, he never fight. No, he never fight over you. Isn't she lovely? Isn't she wonderful? Isn't she precious? Less than 1 minute old. I never thought true love would be
as lovely as she, but isn't she lovely, made from love? Isn't she pretty? Truly the angel's best. Boy, I'm so happy. We have been heaven blessed. I can't believe what God has done through us. He's giving life to one. But isn't she lovely, made from love? Isn't she lovely? Life and love are the same. Life is Aisha, the meaning of her name. Blondie could have not been done without you who conceived the one that's so very lovely, made from love. Isn't she lovely? Isn't she wonderful? Isn't she precious? Less than 1 minute old. I never thought true love would be making one as lovely as she. But isn't she lovely, made from love? Isn't she lovely? But isn't she lovely? Isn't she lovely, made from love? Isn't she lovely? Isn't she lovely, made from love? But isn't she lovely, made from love? Isn't she lovely? But isn't she lovely?
I have climbed highest mountain, I have run through the fields, only to be with you, only to be with you. I have run, I have crawled, I have scaled these city walls, only to be with you. But I still haven't found what I'm looking for. But I still haven't found what I'm looking for. I have kissed honey lips, felt the healing fingertips, it burn like fire. This burning desire, I have spoken tongue of angels, I have held hand of the devil. It was warm in the night, I was cold as a stone. But I still haven't found what I'm looking for. But I still haven't found what I'm looking for. I believe kingdom come, then all the colors leading to one, leading to one. Well, yes, I'm still running. You broke the bonds, loose the chains, curved the cross of my shame, of my shame. You know I believed it, but I still haven't found what I'm looking for. But I still haven't found what I'm looking for.
Well, you only need a light when it's burning low. Only miss the sun when it starts to snow. Only know you love it when you let it go. Only know you've been high when you're feeling low. Only hate the road when you're missing home. Only know you love it when you let it go. And you let it go. Staring at the bottom of your glass, hoping one day you'll make a dream last. But dreams come slow and they go so fast. You see her when you close your eyes. Maybe one day you'll understand why everything you touch surely dies. But you only need a light when it's burning low. Only miss the sun when it starts to snow. Only know you love it when you let it go. Only know you've been high when you're feeling low. Only hate the road when you're missing home. Only know you love it when you let it go. Staring at the ceiling in the dark, same old empty feeling in your heart. 'Cause love comes slow and it goes so fast. Well, you see it when you fall asleep, but never to touch and never to keep. 'Cause you loved her too much and you dive too deep. Well, you only need a light when it's burning low. Only miss the sun when it starts to snow. Only know you love it when you let it go. Only know you've been high when you're feeling low. Only hate the road when you're missing home. Only know you love it when you let it go. And you let her go. Oh, and you let her go. Well, you let her go. You only need the light when it's burning low. Only miss the sun when it starts to snow. Only know you've been high when you're feeling low. Only hate the road when you're missing home. sugar, take the time, 'cause the lights are shining bright. You and I got what it takes to make it. We won't fake it. Said woman, take it slow. Things will be just fine. You and I just use a little patience. Said sugar, take the time, 'cause the lights are shining bright. You and I've got what it takes to make it. We won't fake it. Little patience, yeah. Just a little patience, yeah. Little patience, yeah. Just a little patience,
Saturday morning, jumped out of bed, put on my best suit, got in my car and raced like a jet all the way to you. Knocked at your door, heart in my hands, to ask you a question, 'cause I know that you're an old-fashioned man. Can I have your daughter for the rest of my life?
say yes.
'Cause I need to know. You say I'll never get your blessing till the day I die. Tough luck, my friend, but the answer is no.
Why you gotta be so rude? Don't you know I'm human too? Why you gotta be so rude?
I'm gonna marry her anyway.
Marry this girl. Marry this girl.
Yeah, no matter what you say,
Marry this girl.
we'll be a family.
Why you wanna be so rude?
I hate to do this, you leave no choice. Can't live without her. Love me or hate me, we will be boys. Standing at the altar,
Or we will run away to another galaxy. You know he's in love with me. He will go anywhere I go.
can I have your daughter for the rest of my life?
Say yes, say yes.
'Cause I need to know. You say I'll never get your blessing till the day I die. Tough luck, my friend, 'cause the answer's still no.
Why you gotta be so rude? Don't you know I'm human too? Why you gotta be so rude? you gotta be so rude?
Can I have your daughter for the rest of my life?
Say yes, say yes.
Cause I need to know. You say I'll never get your blessing till the day I die. Tough luck, my friend. No still means no.
Why you gotta be so rude? Don't you know I'm human too? Why you gotta be so rude?
I'm gonna marry her anyway.
Marry this girl.
Oh, that girl. Marry her anyway.
Come on and marry this girl.
Marry that girl. No matter what you say.
Why you gotta be so rude? Why you gotta be so rude? Why you gotta be so rude?
I'm gonna marry her anyway. Today I don't feel like doing anything. I just wanna lay in my bed. Don't feel like picking up my phone, so leave a message at the tone. Cause today I swear I'm not doing anything. I'm gonna kick my feet up, then stare at the fan. Turn the TV on, throw my hand in my pants. Nobody's gonna tell me I can't. Nah, I'll be lounging on the couch, just chilling in my snuggie. Click to MTV so they can teach me how to Dougie. Cause in my castle, I'm the freaking man. Oh, yes, I said it. I said it. I said it cause I can. Today I don't feel like doing anything. I just wanna lay in my bed. I don't feel like picking up my phone, so leave a message at the tone. Cause today I swear I'm not doing anything. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. Tomorrow I'll wake up, do some P90X, meet a really nice girl, have some really nice sex, and she's gonna scream out, "This is great." Oh my God, this is great. Yeah, I might mess around and get my college degree. I bet my old man would be so proud of me. But sorry, pops, you just have to wait. Oh, yes, I said it. I said it. I said it cause I can. Today I don't feel like doing anything. I just wanna lay in my bed. Don't feel like picking up my phone, so leave a message at the tone. Cause
i-Grape mission is to take the lab to the vine to address significant challenges in the industry that faces by presenting cost-efficient, sustainable practices that mitigate climate change effects on modern viticulture. To wrap up the workshop, the next panel explores precision viticulture and the challenges of the 21st century, a discussion moderated by Natasha Funch, Research and Development Manager at i-Grape.
Welcome back. We are about to finish this workshop. We have been discussing a lot since this morning. I will invite Antonio to join me in this round table. I also have other invited speakers remotely. I will shortly present all of them. As I was saying, we have been discussing very interesting technological developments on grape maturation and water status monitoring. We have been looking for the state of the art, but now we are about to discuss how can we add value, how this technology can bring value to the decision making and for the business of grape and wine production. Well, I will start by presenting our invited participants of this roundtable. That I start by acknowledging their presence. I will start by Roberta Bieber. She's joining us from Italy. She's an agronomist in Massi Agricola, a historical winery located in Valpolicella, near Verona. I'm sorry if I mispronounced it. Massi is also present in Prosecco area, in Friuli regions and Tuscany. And Roberta is responsible for the grape production and the integrated and organic pest management. From Italy, we also have Dr. Maurizio Pogoni. Is the director of Tenut Rufino, the agricultural company that manages the Rufino Group's estates in Tuscany. He's graduated in agricultural sciences, and he has been collaborating since the time of his PhD in 1993 with the university as well. He has been publishing a lot of papers together with them. Then from Australia is joining us. Good evening, Mark. Dr. Mark Christic. He's the managing director of the Australian Wine Research Institute. He has more than 25 years of experience in grape and wine research development. He chairs the Australian Wine Industry Technical Conference and is on the board of the National Wine Foundation and the South Australian Genomics Center, so he will bring us his experience from different areas. And also, and joining me here in presence, we have Antonio Grassa. He's head of research and development at i-Grape. Actually, he's my boss. He holds a master degree in enology from UTAD, and he also serves as scientific secretary with the Sustainable Development and Climate Change Expert Group of the OIV, the Organization for Vine and Wine. And he joined the executive committee of Enoviti International Network and serves as expert at several European and national wine business associations. Well, I've the pleasure to be here moderating this session. And following this morning session where we have seen such interesting developments and regarding the i-Grape project, whose results are very promising for the grape maturation monitoring. This system or this project proposes an innovative system to bring the lab to the grapevine by continuously monitoring grape maturation by means of a novel, autonomous and low-cost sensor. Well, I would say that this solution promises to change the paradigm of the current control of grape maturation at global scale, but I expect my invited participants to give their experience in this subject. And mostly what we are and I would like to explore here is how the technological solutions and i-Grape can be changers in challenging scenarios that agriculture is facing right now, and how this can help bring value to the business and to the producers, especially to increase the efficiency and profitability in an eco-friendly way by helping reducing CO2 emissions, while helping to the business to get value. So, now moving on, Antonio, the ability to assess the evolution of grape maturation and the plant water status, what we have been discussing here in real time, is something long desired by winemakers, and recent advances, as we've seen in technology, opens good perspective. Do you want to comment on that?
Yes, thank you. First of all, thank you very much for the invitation to be here after this very interesting period of project development we have had with this very nice team we have been working with. Definitely the possibility of seeing grapevine maturation and water status on real time opens a totally new way of looking into grape management towards making wine. One of the major hurdles we have had historically when dealing with which blocks to harvest for which type of wine, or which blocks to harvest first and which blocks to harvest later, has been the lack of sufficiently accurate and timely information in order to allow these decisions to be done efficiently. Most winemakers, most wine growers do samplings once a week. Some of them may do at best twice a week. And that gives you a discrete view onto the process of maturity. What this means is that each data point is not really what is happening, but it's a balance of what has happened between the two dates where the sampling was done. Having the possibility of having daily data sampled remotely without human intervention, and even if we decide to program it that way, hourly data allows us to have a much better understanding of the dynamics ongoing. So we can detect when the grape is being enriched in quality compounds such as sugar, acids, and maybe others later on. We can detect when that process has been stopped. We can understand if it is a continuous or if it is an irregular process. So the same way that real-time sensors for fermentation allowed us to understand fermentation kinetics in a much better way than we did before when we were sampling by hand, the same way will happen here. And so this will, in my opinion, lead towards a new way of actually not just understanding, but most than anything else, managing the build-up of the fitness for purpose of grapes when making wine.
Of course, so from your words, I believe that you are sure that this kind of technology will add value to the business.
Yes, of course, there is, when we talk about adoption, there is always the consideration of cost to be taken. Okay.
It needs to be cost
There
efficient.
is an interest, a technical interest in understanding what is going on in grape dynamics when we have a process on which we rely in order to obtain a product with the characteristics we need to put on the market. But of course, the technical way of doing it has a cost, and that cost has got to be balanced out with the value that we can obtain in the market. So when you are considering the adoption of a new technology, which implies an extra cost on top of what you are already doing, you need to have an expectation that that cost won't just be a cost, but it will be an investment that will have a return. And only under those circumstances is the adoption something that becomes warranted. What I believe from what I have seen in these years and from what has been shown here today and declared here today is that we actually may have a value of, a cost on the technology that is acceptable for the benefit that we will bring and for the efficiencies in terms of management and in terms of the quality that will be generated and the value that we will have in the product in the market.
Yes, for evaluate that also it is important to understand what is being done in the different wine regions, and beginning from there, I would like to ask to Mark first what's being doing in Australia, and from your experience, if you believe that this kind of technology, namely the i-Grape technology, can actually add value to what you've been doing for that.
Yeah, good afternoon, Natasha and Antonio, and thank you very much for the invitation to be part of this workshop as well. I do appreciate it. Now, my apologies, it's 12:18 a.m. in Adelaide, where I am at the moment, so I may not be as mentally as alert as I usually am, but I apologise. But listen, to your question, Natasha, I think this technology is very, very exciting. You know, we've certainly, you know, as Antonio talked about, most of the standard sampling and testing for maturity and other quality parameters is done in a destructive manner, typically on a weekly basis, as we know. There's been some plays. The Institute's made a number of plays in Australia looking at other non-destructive methods, you know, such as NIR, FTIR, but the cost of those instruments is such that you can't deploy them en masse at a scale that you require that's going to address the variability that's in the vineyard, be it within the bunch, between bunches, or between vines in a vineyard. So I think that's, to me, the very exciting part of this project. You know, I think that there's some, you know, as Antonio said, I think not for every vineyard, but I think certainly for the higher quality, more premium sort of vineyards where we're looking to really understand this. I think this will also tell us a lot more information about if we're able to monitor water status and also monitor maturation in situ in real time at the same time. It will start to tell us a lot of information around that ripening process, understanding the sugar loading in the berry and when things might actually be ripening as a result of dehydration or shrivel in those berries as well. So I think, to me, this technology is very, very exciting. I'm not sure whether, Natasha, you wanted me to say anything about the water status monitoring, grapevine water status, but I think if you want me to just so the other panelists have some time to talk as well, I'm happy to pause there if you want me to.
Okay. Well, I would like to have also the opinion and the experience from Maurizio in a different area in Italy. If you can share your experience on what you've been doing to assess the grape maturation, and also it would be interesting to know from your side into what extent this analysis is important for your management, the harvest management, and the wine quality that you produce.
Okay, thanks, Natasha, and good afternoon to all, and thanks for your invitation. And well, what can we say? the control of maturation is really something for an estate or for a group of estates like us in Tuscany and Veneto. We have 9 estates all around Tuscany and Veneto. It's a process, how can we say, engaging, expensive, time-consuming, effort-consuming. It takes a lot of time for us to manage the process of maturation. And we, of course, we have NDVI maps on which we base the sampling, but we have to make sampling weekly or more frequent sampling. We have many vineyards, more than 200 vineyards to monitor and quite spread in the territory. We have to engage people. We have to to hire people to do that in order to have a complete monitoring of the situation and not a timely, as Antonio said before, but in a quite a good time to have answers about maturation. And we have no information about the water status of the vines in the meanwhile. So it's quite a problem for us. It's what we are going to face in a few days and in August. Also, not a nice period to do that. But I think that this what I have learned from you this morning and around the and taking some information about the i-Grape sensors and the technology. I think it's we can add a great value to our sampling, not just as we can reduce, we can simplify it, we can have more timely information, but also as we have many lacks. Also, Antonio said before that we have lacks in knowledge about the ripening. I can give you 3 examples. For instance, we don't know when the ripening phase really starts. We begin every year we begin samples, we begin the sampling, but we don't know if we are in a good time, we are late, or we are too early. Second point, we don't know the effects. What in real time? I mean, on time, we don't know the effects of rain during the harvest, during the maturation phase. We don't know if this rain is going to dilute or if it's not having any effects on the ripening phase. Third example, quite actual. We don't know the effects of heat wave along the ripening processes. So we have many lacks in knowledge, and I think this application, of course, if we will overcome some constraints, I can see in its application some limits, some limitation. It will give us a great value, mostly in terms of knowledge. Of course, also in terms of cost saving in simplifying our life. But mostly we will have more knowledge about the maturation of our grapes.
Of course, I see that you have pointed the main features of i-Grape as something that can bring it to another level, which is the real-time monitoring, probably the possibility to give you trends in terms of evolution, because in the future you might be able to correlate this information with meteorological information and climate projections and other metadata that can be used to help us. Concerning the water status and having in consideration that the water as a resource will is in danger actually, and this is something that we really need to study, which is a way to measure the real needs of the plant in terms of water in order to optimize the irrigation strategies. But from what we have seen here, in terms of technology advances, the solutions we have, they're not cost efficient, and we are looking for that. I don't know, and taking this opportunity, Mark, if we have seen, I don't know if you have attended this morning, probably not, but I would love to have your opinion on digital tools that you are aware of on this particular subject, the water status. In Australia, what are you using there? What's your opinion about the existing, the state of the art in terms of this technology? And having in consideration that with the i-Grape, we are not yet there. We are still a little bit behind when compared with the maturation status. The results are pretty exciting, but regarding the water status, no. So can you share with us your knowledge on this subject?
Yeah, sure, Natasha. Look, my background in irrigation science in grapevines goes back probably over 20 years now, but a lot of the work that we've done in Australia has been probably based on soil moisture monitoring, to be fair, and our soils have been quite conducive to, mainly capacitance-based monitoring of soil water status, and that's given us some great insights into how plants are using water during certain stages. There's been a lot of focus on looking at plant-based measures of water status as well. So whether we're talking about dendrometry, whether we're talking about thermography, or whether we're talking about other sort of techniques as well. None of those at the moment have really given us, I think, something that, or SatFlow is the other one we've spent a fair bit of time with. They're quite really trying to understand those in relation, whether it be other measures of plant water status. The dendrometry work is showing some quite interesting promise at the moment. So there's a range of sensors that have been trialled here in Australia that are looking at either dendrometry of berries, of leaf and stem stuff as well, and trunk. And they're showing, and as long as you can take out the ambient effects of the surrounding environment and other influences on those technologies, there's some stuff there that's happening at the moment that's quite exciting, I think, in that area. The cost is still not, I think, at a level which can be deployed at scale, but I think there's some very interesting technologies that are certainly coming to the fore now. I think the thermography, we're spending quite a bit of time looking at thermography a little bit more too, and I think this is interesting, but again, it's just challenging making sure that you've got the right references and so forth to be able to do that effectively in a vineyard setting. So I think there's some, I think we're at the same point, to be honest with you, Natasha. I think we're probably still searching for that technique or technology that is at a cost level that's then deployable at scale within vineyards, and that gives you information that you can interpret and make some sort of a management decision about when to apply, how much to apply, et cetera, in an irrigation sense. So, yeah, we've come a long way, but I think we're almost at about the same point you are in the project. And I didn't get to see the presentations earlier today.
Of course, we will share it with you, don't worry. Well, Roberta, I think that, and you are present in different wine regions in Italy. I would like to ask you, what is your experience over there in terms of grape maturation, monitoring, what are you doing, and also in terms of the water status, the needs that you have in different wine regions in Italy, and the technology, if any, that you are using to help you.
Yes, in order to control the grapevine maturation, we do laboratory analysis, and our pleasure is to inspect weekly, every week, the status of the grapes, checking the acidity and the sugar level using FOS technology. From the raisin to the harvest, we collect samples every week to bring in our laboratory. So we believe that i-Grape technology could bring great value because analyzed in real time. And we are also interested in the possibility of evaluating the water status of plants to intervene with emergency irrigation and to avoid water stress. Not all our vineyards are irrigated, and it's important to have a correct use of water in season with severe drought like this. In this year, a strong water stress has continued to occur between blooming to the veraison, but for our varieties, local varieties, it is more dangerous to have a high level of water stress between the veraison and the harvest. Yes, we hope it will be rain in the next few weeks. And to recognize water stress, we can see suffering vines that begin to lose leaves. We notice the leaf scorch and the suppress growth.
Thank you, Roberta, for sharing your experience. Well, we have seen that maturation and water status are the main parameters that we are talking here, but I would like to, Antonio, as a wine grower, well, besides grape maturation and the water status, as I said, what other processes would you like to have supported by digital tools in order to help us, the wine sector, to be more efficient and resilient as well?
Well, there are several processes that we would always like to have a better understanding, and more than that, a higher granularity of information in order to adequately manage them. The first coming to mind, of course, is fertility in terms of grapevine nutrition. It's something that in terms of nitrogen is becoming also reachable in terms of digital technology, but still not there yet. It's something that is evolving and needs to evolve. But definitely we could improve a lot our nutrition management in vineyard management if we would have a higher level of detail and a higher level of understanding again of the dynamics of nutrient use, pickup and depletion in grapevines. Another aspect that's becoming more and more relevant is also the management of soil. And in the management of soil, I'm talking not just in terms of soil as a resource, but also of soil as, for example, carbon sink. And the management of the carbon cycle in the vineyard and in the non-vineyard spaces around the vineyard is becoming more and more important. That is something that digital technologies from image analysis, satellite image analysis of land cover are becoming ever more precise and bringing in more ways of understanding what is going on, understanding especially that when we talk about carbon, and especially carbon sinks, carbon sequestration, it's not just that is happening, but more like a carbon balance, because from soil and vegetation, we have both an intake and an emission at the same time. And so understanding how carbon can be managed in a way to remain more than is emitted becomes important. But then also, remaining at the level of landscape management, the actual land use of wine regions and the way ecosystem services can be developed in order to support the agronomical management of vineyards in countering the development of pathogens or pests and at the same time maintaining an adequate hydric level of vineyards can also have a great deal of importance. And this also goes over the actual management of a vineyard or the wine production, because more and more wine tourism is becoming also an important revenue side stream for the wine sector. And landscape is one of the major resources for wine tourism. And having the possibility of adequately understanding what is happening in terms of landscape, the landscape dynamics, the change of land use, the pressure of urbanization in regions which are close to urban centers and so on, are also processes that could be quite well improved if we would have a better access to digital technologies that would allow us to do on these spaces the same thing that urban planners are doing in cities with the same type of technology. Finally, and because I could stay here the whole afternoon talking about this, but I think it's important also to mention the impact of climate change onto the process of producing grapes and managing vineyards. It's not just about carbon; it's also the effects of impacts that we see and that can be monitored through the application of digital tools. For example, on areas that will receive airflows from industrial areas, the effect of ozone on the plants, on the vineyard itself, on the vegetal tissues can be monitored using the digital tools. And this is going to become ever more important as the ozone levels are becoming increased because of climate change. So in fact, I believe there's a whole lot of things that can be improved from the use of digital technologies. And again, the possibility of using digital to have a continuous monitoring instead of a discrete monitoring will open a lot of possibilities that we cannot even dream about now.
Yes, indeed. I understand that at this moment we need technology and digital tools to collect information as much as we need in order to be more capable to better adapt to the situation and to the challenges that we have
Let me just
now.
interrupt you to say one thing there, because this is a critical point. The build-up of data can have a drowning effect on managers if that data is not properly converted and managed as reliable and relevant information. So the actual gathering of data requires a lot more of data tools that transform the data into actionable information.
Okay, thank you. And as I was saying, we can use these to get information, to help us to better adapt to challenges like the climate change that you've mentioned. But I would like also to understand in what extent the digital can help us. But for that, I would like to ask Maurizio, what are the main challenges that you are facing right now? For instance, the lack of manpower, is that a problem for you in Italy? The profitability of the grapes that you are selling and the wine that you are the grapes you are producing and the wine you are selling, in terms of efficiency of processes. Well, can you please give your opinion on this?
Okay. Yes, Natasha, we have many, how can we say, many operational issues and about work, about people, and about cost, how to reduce at the right cost, specific. But I think that the main challenge is climate change. It's really climate change, and it's really what, as Antonio was saying just a few seconds ago. If we have a real and on-time picture of the state of the plant, of the state of the vine, of the condition of the vine, we can really adapt. We can really, of course, if we have the right information, the right timely, but also the right information. The risk is to have too many informations. But if we have the good information, the good picture of the status of the plant, we really can act, can react, can be resilient, can adapt. For instance, we are very archaic or primitive in the monitoring of the water status, in the monitoring of the plant nutrition status. We are very we really don't know the real efficiency of the sprays that we do every time, along the season. So we have many challenges, but I think that the most important is in this moment, this specific moment, and especially since 2017 for us in Tuscany, is the monitoring and the resilience to the climate change. And this picture that these digital tools like i-Grape can give us is really something very powerful to act and to do the best in the right moment.
Thank you so much. I have a question, and I think that we should take the opportunity to be in presence of the scientific community. Here is represented in this roundtable the business, and I would like you all to give your impression or your feedback on this question. What needs would you point out for the scientific community to develop to help the wine sector to be more resilient and sustainable, facing all these challenges? Mark, do you want to start?
Yeah, thank you, Natasha. Look, I think it sort of follows on a little bit from what I think Maurizio was talking about here. I think there's certainly a short term in our sector at the moment in Australia around just general profitability at certain price points in our market. The longer term stuff, it has to be climate change. It has to be our social license. The way we produce grapes now and into the future is going to be under close scrutiny from our customers and our consumers. We need to be very aware of how we're doing this and making sure that we're meeting their needs in terms of the way that we're producing these grapes into the future. The word sustainability gets thrown around a lot, but it's really important, and it covers a lot of various angles, whether it be around using less water, especially in producing wine. We need to be, into material that's more temperature resilient. There, we need to be looking at less synthetic inputs into our production systems. And I think, as Antonio talked about too, we're going to have to be a lot smarter about how we manage our soils into the future here too, because this is the natural capital that our industry is built on. We buy and sell real estate in our industry based on it's linked to climate and soil. And I think it's really important that we really need to have the scientific community come in behind this and really understand how these things, including ecosystem services, really are important in that production system to be able to produce grapes with minimal inputs that meet customer needs to the future.
Antonio, do you want to?
Well, there's not much more that I would add here, but I think there is one point that is relevant to focus, which is the need to incorporate the breakthroughs, the discoveries, the models, the specialist solutions that are developed in the system of making a business out of wine. We have, and we were talking before, we have here on i-Grape a sensor that is promising to deliver data on maturity and water status. They cannot be taken separate. Yeah. They need to be understood together so that we understand how that is going to affect on the final result, on the grape that is going to originate a wine. And then we need to understand how that result translates in terms of profitability, which in the end of the day is a measure of the viability of the system. So this system approach, which has been pretty much overlooked across the scientific community, with a few honorable exceptions here and there, needs to become more mainstream, because today the type of pressures we face, and we have already mentioned a couple of them: climate change, social license, problems with labor, resource depletion, namely soil and ecosystems. these are all components of a system. If we just focus on solving one issue of that system, we may be creating a greater imbalance on other parts of the system. So we need to understand when we change something, what will be the overall impacts in the whole system so we can really move forward.
Yes, indeed. And there's something that we haven't been talking, which is the phytosanitary pressure, that it's also associated with the climate change that we are facing. And Roberta, being you responsible for the integrated and organic pest management at MASI, I was wondering if you want to, or if you have thought about something that you would like to have solved, like what kind of tool would you like to have in order to help you in this management in terms of pest and disease impact, or in terms of, let's say, the symptoms in the vineyard. What would help you to improve your management in this area? Do you want to ask for something to the scientific community?
Yes, we think, we believe that will be important to continue to study the rootstock resistance to water stress. But for the disease, it's also important to continue to study the tolerance varieties. And
both for biotic and abiotic stress, yes?
Yes, for biotic and abiotic stress. But also tools, digital tools could be help our work in the vineyard.
Thank you. Maurizio, about this difficult but important question, what would you like to suggest in terms of your needs to be studied and to bring some important or interesting tools for you to help you in your management?
Well, very simple and in a very synthetic way. We, as growers, as managers of companies, I mean, from the agricultural point of view, we need to understand better the plant. We really need to understand better the system, plant, the environment, what the geneticists call the G per I interaction, genotype per environment interaction. We have to understand better, and we need from research all contributors, all the contribution that can guide us on this direction to understand better the plant, the vine, and the system. Mark and Antonio was saying the same before. We have to understand the system. The system is complex, but it's only using simple tools, very easy to be used and managed, that we can go on and progress.
Thank you. Well, I would like to ask to the audience if they have any question to put on the table. No? No questions? Well, I think that we have seen, and I think that we are a little bit ahead on schedule. But anyway, I think that this has been a long day with a lot of information, very interesting information, very about the trends and the state of the art of what has been developing so far. I think that from what we've heard from our invited speakers, we are on the good way, at least. We still have a lot of work to do, but mostly, and what has been discussed is that we need, okay, we are collecting a lot of information, but we need to integrate it in a way, in an understandable way, in order to apply it and to get profit and value from there. So I would like once more to thank you all for being here. And I hope that we will be with some good news for you briefly especially to have the i-Grape sensor in the market and to finally help the grape and wine producers to improve their management with these decision-making tools. Well, thank you all, and I would like to ask you to give a big applause to our invited. Well, I don't know, probably I'm going to make something that is not usual, but do you want to ask anything to the scientific community here present in here? No. Mark, you're tired, I understand. It's too late there. Well, Antonio, no.
Well, yeah, I have plenty of things I could ask. Let me find one that is relevant for what we had just studied. One of the things that I have been focusing recently when looking at this as a system is that this is a system with limits. We were talking about soil before, okay? And we know that soil is a finite resource. It still is a very important resource. We cannot grow vines without adequate soil, and we need to replenish nutrients in the soil to compensate what gets taken every year. But on top of that, we are losing soil to erosion. We are losing soil because our practices sometimes destroy partially and sometimes even totally the soil. So my question here would be, what type of solutions for soil monitoring could we expect from digital sciences, from digital technology?
Paulo, you want to?
Actually, so this is a point that we have already considered in the recent past, and we do have now a program ongoing, kind of a collaboration with the University of Wageningen and IBM, where this has been approached as an example. So there are possibilities, so they do require some soil treatment, and this is something that we need to overcome. So providing we can do something to the soil, then we can look for the nutrients in the soil. And the example of the soil we have in the Douro region is complicated, as you know. So because we cannot really measure rocks, so we need to break and then look for the sediments around. But it's definitely possible within the type of technology that we have been discussing today. So this type of lab-on-chip structures, providing we have treated and passed, for example, some water from treated soil, then goes into a system, we can tell you what kind of nutrients we have, and we can use this to control fertilization. So it's definitely nothing impossible. It's something where people have been looking, and we have not looked directly because we have had these type of challenges ahead of us. But it's possible. We just need to be very smart and to understand what is this community looking for. What do you need to look in soil? And then we will, again, take a couple of years to look for a proper solution, but it's nothing out of the pot. It's something we can do.
Yes, and also have in mind the cost efficiency.
Yeah, of course.
Behind this, I know that you are aware
I
of
would like
this.
just to go a bit further on this, because one of the major soil loss phenomena we have, and it's also a major carbon loss phenomena, is erosion. And looking on a macro scale for a wine region, and there are several wine regions which are more prone to erosion than others, would there be any type of technology that could be used to measure the actual loss of soil to erosion on a macro scale and identify which are the practices or the places where soil is more conserved than others?
Bringing the speaker to me. But I think so. But again, so this is an area where probably imaging can help. And so this is what we discussed before. I think we need to be smart and understand what we can get from each of the technologies we have available. Because erosion, this is something that I would say that if we are looking with image analysis at certain spots, we can definitely see over the months and years and at longer scales what is happening in certain regions affected either by wind, by water. And so these are things that we are, let's say, familiar with. But again, so I think this what we need from the community, for example, in this case of the vineyards, is to understand how critical this phenomena is and how important it is, and then to look at the scientific community and say, this is a problem, this is a challenge, and let's work to solve it together. Because I think it is possible. In this particular case, we have probably the tools to go at it and to get a solution that is not going to take so long. I think we are doing things which are probably more difficult. The erosion on itself, maybe it is control, it is another story, no?
Yeah,
Thank you.
indeed.
I don't know if anyone else wants to speak.
Hello, at InESCTech, we are addressing already that issue. And we have European projects on precision fertilization and soil composition, and also a big project for the USDA, Department of Agriculture in the United States, where we receive soils from every place in the United States to quantify. We are using near-infrared and laser-induced breakdown spectroscopy to quantify the elements in soils, and we are using our system for precision hydroponics and understanding what are the ions that are in solution for precision dosage of the ions and not the elements, because in precision fertilization we have to look that the fertilization and in soil or either in an hydroponics is the chemical network of the soil or the chemical network of the hydroponics, and we need to know how precisely adapt the quantities of the different nutrients and their forms, specificity, and chemical equilibriums to know how the flux of nutrients enters the plant. So that's what we are working on in tomatoes and with the USDA Department of Agriculture.
Well, thank you. I think we will end this session here. I would like to thank all the speakers of today, and particularly you that are now present. Your time, your experience, and I believe that all together, if we work together, we will go ahead more quickly, and we will attain the objectives and that we need faster. So thank you once again, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
I found a love for me. Darling, just dive right in.
Okay, so we finished a bit ahead of time, which is good. So it will leave us a bit of time now to rest, to think, and to speak among each other if we want. So I would like to thank everyone for attending, for coming, and for those that are from the i-Grape consortium. Please stay here a little bit, because we want to discuss with you a bit some social events that we still have, and for the, of course, for the invitees that we had today. Please stay also with us. And for the rest of the people, please enjoy the rest of the hot afternoon. I think it's becoming hot again. And enjoy INL if you want. And if you need anything from us, just let us know. So thank you very much for coming. And we hope that we'll make this i-Grape project not terminate. Actually, this is just a phase, and what we need is to continue working to bring the different phases either into the market or into new research for areas that continue to be large challenges. Thank you very much.
I hope that someday I'll share her home.